Damn it, it's time to play again. Here it is, 3 o'clock on a Saturday, June 13th, and I'm Gary Lucas, and thanks for tuning in, and let's get right down to it. Well, I'm so glad, yes, I'm mighty glad. I'm so tired of mourning for you. Well, I'm so glad, yes, I'm mighty glad. So tired of crying for you. Well, I sing cuckoo, just like a little baby do. So tired of crying for you. Well, I'm so glad, yes, I'm mighty glad. So tired of mourning for you. Sung by the great Skip James, who is just about my favorite guitarist and blues master in the world. Skip James, I think I talked about him a couple of sessions ago. He's from Bentonia, Mississippi, and inspired a whole school of guitar playing. Inimitable and unforgettable. Anyway, he was big on minor open tunings, and this doesn't occur very often. Robert Johnson was known to use it once in his recorded output for Hellhound on My Trail in open E minor, and it became kind of a hallmark of my songwriting for a while. The very first song I wrote was called Poison Tree, and it was in open E minor, and so here's how that went. As best I can recall here. Mind split, darkness trip out. Tree unfurl the branches and rip out, and spread its banners for all to see. Come gather round the poison tree. Tree of life bears bitter fruit. Harvest yields the iron boot. See the soul that grows mossy. All gather round poison. Tree. Poison tree. Poison. It's a little bit of Duke Ellington, my arrangement of a great tune from his Money Jungle album. We better run through the jungle, and that featured the great Charles Mingus on bass, and Max Roach on drums, and the Duke on piano. It's his own composition entitled Fleurette Africaine, African Flower. And anyway, I'm so happy to be able to play to you here. It's a beautiful, tranquil day, seemingly, out here in the West Village of Manhattan. Sad to report, though, that there are so many people running around the West Village without masks. It's kind of sickening. I mean, it might literally be sickening. Nobody knows, and these kids, especially who are doing this, they don't know, and kids are dying just like elderly people or people with pre-existing conditions, of which I fit a couple of those categories. So I just think it's like when you look at the example of a country like South Korea or Hong Kong or Taiwan or China, and I mean, maybe it was coercive tactics in the case of China, but these people mustered up a community spirit out of a great instinct for self-preservation, and were able to pull together to greatly reduce the curve and, slow down the spread of the coronavirus. And in this country, there's spikes going on all over the 50 states, and we haven't yet seen the effects of the mass protests of the last couple of weeks, but they're probably on schedule. So I don't know about you, I'd still wear that mask. I mean, I see them hanging off faces or pulled down around chins often. Don't be lax on this. This is like, I know America is predicated on your God-given right to be an asshole. I get it. You got to fight for your right to party, and who wants to deny anybody's short spurt of pleasure in here? But if you're in it for the long haul as civilization, which I hope we are, but maybe not, this is worrisome. So I don't want to get too tedious about that. Enough said. And let's get right down. I'm going to switch glasses. Again, I find it pretentious to wear sunglasses indoors, but I'm here in direct, bright sunlight, thanks to this wonderful Western exposure. Okay, Clinton Fisher, thank you so much for your contribution to PayPal. Petros Consulting. I don't know who the person is. I guess his last name is Petros, which was the name of a vice principal in my high school in Syracuse, George Petros. No, wait, that was Mr. Petrov. Anyway, a guy who disciplined me in high school for wearing a Frankenstein T-shirt to the school there on Sloppy Friday or whatever holiday we decided to call it. I was disappointed. Kitty Tripp. I don't know if this is Artie Tripp's wife or daughter or sister, but thank you, for your contribution. And you have turned up a lot. I've seen your name in a lot of Beefheart discussion groups, and she's just said thank you for the music, ! Thank you, Kitty. And that brings me to also put in a plug for my Captain Beefheart tribute, which is beginning on Monday, and it may well go into a couple of episodes. We'll see. But I have a lot of surprises for you there. And, he wants you to attend to... Okay, Don, what do you say? You're going to invite everybody to... okay, he's touching his heart, and he's really touched that you're going to tune in on Tuesday for a tribute to the great Captain Beefheart on the occasion of the 51st anniversary of Trout Mask Replica, the release on Straight Records, which was one of Frank Zappa's labels. At the time, he had to deal with Warner Brothers. I digress. Okay, Stephen Griffiths, you've been a multiple contributor. Thank you, buddy. Niles Yeager, you and Diana Yeager, again, you came through and I'm so grateful. And Mark Green, ditto. And what can I say? Please, if you like what you hear, I love doing this, God knows. And I don't have a paywall between me and you here. I don't think that would be appropriate. I know some artists are doing that, but that would seem to be churlish, to say the least, on their part. If you like what you hear and you can share the love at PayPal, the address is Gary@GaryLucas.com. Okay, I'm going to move over to another guitar here. And let's see. Here we go with electric guitar. And this will be in the nature of a teaser for the show on Tuesday. And it'll be a rendition of Evening Bell, which was one of Don Van Vliet's most complex compositions for guitar, solo guitar, which I was honored to perform on his album Ice Cream for Crow in 1982. Evening Bell. There's a long, complicated backstory to that, which I will tell on Tuesday, maybe. And there's plenty of stories. I got a million of them regarding Don Van Vliet. In my opinion, the greatest of the great artists of the 20th century and on into the 21st century. He was artistic to the tips of his toes, and I never met anybody quite like him as a poet, as a musician, a composer, a sculptor, a painter, and a guy dropping aphorisms and witticisms every other sentence. He was the most brilliant conversationalist I ever met. Anyway, I could go on, and I will go on, but tune in then. And what else do we have? Okay. I'm going to switch for the last portion of today's show to my National Steel Duolian, which is affectionately known as the instrument of death. At least that's what Don called it. I acquired this at Matt Umanov Guitars for a mere $1,000 about 1982, specifically to play on the Ice Cream for Crow album. I'm gonna get in closer. And I can't read your comments, guys, so you know, on the iPhone 11, my eyes are not that good. But I do appreciate what everybody writes pretty much like at the end of the show, and I'm happy to talk to you when I hang up here. And keep those cards and letters coming in, and the number here is Bigelow 85. No, just kidding. And during this self-quarantine, I've been getting into some older films that I love to revisit and keep me in a good mood, which is very important. And one of the best still is The Great Midnight Run, which came out about 1988. It was directed by Martin Brest, who had just come off Beverly Hills Cop. So it was like his next film, and it was not as popular as Beverly Hills Cop, but it was pretty popular, and it got tremendous reviews, starring Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin. It really, really holds up. I can't tell you. Joey Pantoliano is in it, who was a great character actor on The Sopranos, among other shows and films like Memento. And who else is in that cast? Some really great... Oh, Yaphet Kotto as an FBI agent. And anyway, if my wife was here, she could tell you, because she's down with all these people who are based in New York. But especially beloved of me in this movie is the score by Danny Elfman, who I first discovered in this great cult film, Forbidden Zone, that his brother, Richard Elfman, directed, which I would urge you to see. It's really a special cult midnight movie classic. And for this score, he went to basically a small group in the blues and gospel music, and it's just really good. And, anyway, I'm going to try and do one of the main theme on the steel here. shortchange you. I promised to do a half an hour, and God darn, I'm gonna do a half an hour. Okay. So. The soundtrack of this album is really quite good, and it's by Ira Ingber. And if you know your Beefheart guitar history, Elliot Ingber, his brother, was a pretty seminal player. He was the only guitarist who Don ever allowed to do extended soloing, pretty much, in the Magic Band. Everything else was pretty rigorously sculpted by Don, but Elliot, who was known as Wingedeel Fingerling, did some amazing psychedelic guitar solos on songs like Alice in Blunderland, for instance. But this is his brother Ira, and I posted a little bit of the soundtrack and linked into him, and he came back and thanked me. So if he's tuning in, I want to say you're really a great player, great sound. There's a whole school of West Coast slide guitarists who I think are really sensational. Ry Cooder, for instance, who was also with Beefheart. And Elliot was pretty good. Ira, really good. Who else can I think of right now offhand? There are many. And, David Lindley, I gotta say. Terrific player and great tone and sound. And anyway, these guys more or less spawned a whole school of slide guitar, blues rock cliches, which you can hear pretty much on commercial advertising wall to wall. It's sort of become a common vocabulary, and also on soundtrack. It's a tool to signify, good times and blues and spirituality, but I did a score once for HBO. They heard me playing at a tribute to the great Robert Johnson. And this was up at Avery Fisher Hall. No, Alice Tully Hall, in Lincoln Center. And it was John Schaefer and his New Sounds show. So I was on a bill there with John Renbourn, the late, great John Renbourn, who was a great British folk blues guitarist, who you may know from Pentangle with Bert Jansch. And who else was on the bill? Toshi Reagan was doing a great vocalist, blues singer, based in New York, and me. And we did also one for Skip James. But anyway, the producer heard me working up at Maisels Films, who you probably know from Gimme Shelter, but maybe also from Grey Gardens. Great documentary film outfit run by Albert and David Maisels, who also were camera people on Dylan's documentary for D.A. Pennebaker. But that's another story. So I got an email out of the blue in the morning after that show. Hello, we heard you playing on the air, because it went out over NPR that night. And do you live in New York? We think you have a great sound, and we'd love to have you involved in a documentary we're making about cotton pickers in Mississippi being exploited. So I said, yes. In fact, I live in New York, and when do you want me there? And I jumped in a cab with this guitar, and I went up to their offices in Midtown, and I no sooner got in the door that they sat me down in front of a monitor and showed me some footage, and I just started improvising, and they were like, yeah, okay, we got to get you to do it. So check that out, because I put up excerpts on YouTube of the score for this documentary, which was called Lalle's Kin, Lalee', Lalle's Kin, The Legacy of Cotton. It's quite a good documentary with not a lot of music. They weren't into papering over everything wall to wall with music, as is the common practice these days with documentaries. But what's there I'm pretty proud of. And the documentary was nominated for an Academy Award, didn't win that year, but it had some legs. So check that out. And anyway, I think maybe I'll play that in the future. That was something I haven't touched on in a while. And I think it's time to go now. Thanks so much for tuning in. I love playing for you. I got to put the shades on, man, because it's too painful. Up here in the direct sunlight, it's like being in, I don't know, Trump's tanning bunker. Please tune in again on Tuesday for my tribute to Captain Beefheart. In the meantime, take care of yourself, stay safe, wear a bloody mask. It's not that much to ask. And see if you can get other people to do it. I don't say shame them on the street. I don't want to get punched out. But I'd love to open my mouth up to these casual passerbys. Don't be casual, man, or you'll wind up a casualty, as Don Van Vliet used to say. Okay, it's your friend Gary Lucas. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on Tuesday, and we're going to be here, me and Don, in absentia, with my little trout mask doll. Don says, have a great weekend, and talk to you soon. Bye now.